Testing, testing. Ready? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would just kindly ask those members that are still standing or receiving or entering to find your way to the seated area here so we could start this afternoon's proceedings. Soraya, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking, Kwesi Moore. Welcome aboard Taspo at 75. Today we celebrate 75 of Steel Pan's voyage from 1951 to 2026. Every great voyage begins with honor. Please rise for the national anthem performed on the national instrument by Miss Soraya Rodney of Arima Angel Harps Steel Orchestra. Ask you to remain standing. Ask you to remain standing. Every voyage also needs a blessing. We now invite His Grace, the Archbishop of Port of Spain, to bless this occasion and this journey of Taspo commemoration.
Father, we thank you for creativity, for life, for love, for ingenuity, for celebration, for innovation. From the first tambour bamboo, the first percussion in steel, the first dustbin that had a note, the first recognition of that note transformed into an instrument, the first instrument that has evolved into what we know now as beautiful steel pan. We thank you for the creativity of our people, for each one that has been important in the evolution that we celebrate in these 75 years. We thank you for the steel pan. We thank you for the panyards and the development of our young that dedicate themselves every year for months, seeking after excellence, seeking to get that tune just right, not giving in to mediocrity, but wanting the best of the best, showing forth who we are as a people, the capacity that we have for excellence, for discipline, for working together, for being side by side, for helping each other, for everything that Steel Pan has contributed to the development of this nation. We thank you for, oh God. And for the 75 years we celebrate, we thank you. And we ask your blessings upon all those in the Pan fraternity, but especially for this organization, Taspo. We ask, oh God, that this evening may be a moment of recollection of many graces that have been experienced through hardship and endurance that have brought us to this moment of celebration. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much, Your Grace. You may be seated. Safety is also important. Miss Candice Jagan, one of the friendly faces you will see here at the Carnival Museum, will present today's safety briefing.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum. This location is the corner of Duke and Charlotte Streets. We do not have any planned drills at this time, so if an emergency arises and we need to evacuate, the following will be the escape route out of the building. On the ground floor, exit is through both doors leading to Duke Street and muster opposite the building at KFC Corner. On the first floor, exit is back down the stairs to ground floor and then through the doors on Duke Street. A head count will be done to account for those who exited the building. Both male and female toilets are located on both floors at the end of the corridors. When using the stairs, please use the hand railings. You are now about to experience an amazing event, so please enjoy your time here with us. I am Candice, and we are happy to have you visit our museum. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Mr. Damian Richardson, Director of Culture in the Ministry of Culture and Community Development. His Excellency Ren Hongyan, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, and his wife, Mrs. Hongyan. His Excellency William Bush, Ambassador of the Republic of Colombia. His Excellency Charles Cleghorn, Ambassador of the Republic of Panama. Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon, Archbishop of Port of Spain. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Culture and Community Development, Mrs. Gwyneth Morris Alexander. Mr. Regan Asgarali, Senior Counsel, Controller of Intellectual Property Office, Ministry of Land and Legal Affairs. Captain Gideon Technologis, Captain of the U.S. Navy of U.S. Military Group of the U.S. Embassy. Mr. Richard Rampasad, Chairman of the Board of the National Museum and Art Gallery, and other board members, directors of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, sponsors, friends, and supporters of the Carnival Museum, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Folks, we are indeed happy to be here for this important milestone, which is also being streamed live on WAC 90.1 FM. This year, 2026, marking 75 years since that team of panmen, or panists, sailed and rode trains to reach to London to perform at the Festival of Britain. We welcome you on board to celebrate with us. We acknowledge those online. Hold on to your ticket stubs for your boarding pass, as you just may be one lucky winner of a door prize this afternoon. At this point, and to warmly welcome us all here today, we invite no stranger to Mass and Carnival, Dr. Rosalind Gabriel, co-founder and director of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, a pioneer of Mass and cultural preservation, especially with our youths. Welcome, Dr. Gabriel, to the podium.
Good afternoon to everybody here today, and I would like to extend a welcome to you all on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum. All protocols observed. Distinguished guests, members of the cultural fraternity, musicians, historians, supporters of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the board of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the opening of our 7th exhibition, commemorating the 75th anniversary of Taspo, the Trinidad All-Steel Percussion Orchestra. Tonight, we gather not only to celebrate an extraordinary achievement in music, but also to honor a defining moment in the cultural history of Trinidad and Tobago and indeed the world. 75 years ago, in 1951, a group of young men embarked upon a journey that would forever change the perception of the steel pan and the people who created it. At a time when the instrument was still struggling for acceptance, Taspo traveled to Britain to perform at the Festival of Britain. They became the first national steel orchestra to represent Trinidad and Tobago on the international stage. Their journey was far more than a musical tour. It was a declaration of the ingenuity, resilience, and creativity of our people. These pioneers carried with them the sound of a nation still finding its voice. Through their performances, they introduced the world to the only acoustic musical instrument invented in the 20th century, the steel pan. The members of Taspo came from various steel bands and communities across Trinidad. They represented different backgrounds, but they were united by a common purpose: to demonstrate the beauty, sophistication, and limitless potential of this remarkable instrument. Their success helped transform public attitudes towards the steel pan and laid the foundation for its acceptance as a respected musical instrument throughout the world. Today, 75 years later, we continue to reap the benefits of their courage and vision. The steel band is now taught in schools, universities, and conservatories across the globe. It is performed in concert halls, churches, theaters, and festivals on every continent. Yet none of this would have been possible without the pioneering spirit of Taspo. This exhibition seeks to tell the story through photographs, memorabilia, historical documents, recordings, and personal recollections. We hope visitors will gain a deeper appreciation of the men whose dedication and talent helped elevate the steel pan from the streets of Trinidad and Tobago to the world stage. As we celebrate Taspo, we are also reminded of the importance of preserving our cultural heritage. The Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum was established to collect, preserve, and share the stories of the people whose creativity shaped our national identity. From our humble beginnings in the historic penny bank, we have faced many challenges, with a very huge one currently staring us in the face. But our commitment remains unwavering. With each exhibition, we strive to ensure that future generations understand and appreciate the rich legacy that has been entrusted to us. In this building that collected the pennies of hard-working citizens many years ago, we are collecting carnival memories one by one, saving those memories for those coming after us. Tonight's exhibition stands as a tribute not only to the members of Taspo, but also to all those pioneers of Pan who dared to dream beyond the limitations of their time. Their achievements remind us that great cultural movements often begin with ordinary people possessing extraordinary determination. As we open this exhibition, let us celebrate their legacy, honor their contributions, and recommit ourselves to preserving the cultural treasures that define us as a nation. I invite you to explore the exhibition, reflect upon the remarkable journey of Taspo, and share in the pride of the people whose creativity continues to inspire the world. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask for everybody to stand and observe 1 minute silence to honor one of the pioneers of this great steel band, Mr. Sterling Betancourt, who recently passed away. Thank you, good evening, and enjoy the exhibition. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed any further, let me apologize for the omissions made in the salutations. And I do understand and recognize the importance of having members of the diplomatic corps here and acknowledging their presence. So I would like to acknowledge the presence as well of His Excellency Guillaume Pierre, French Ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Diomedes Cleghorn, Ambassador of Panama to Trinidad and Tobago, and Ms. Denise L.J. Hernandez, Secretary of Panchinbago, standing in place of the President of Panchinbago here this evening. We now invite another member of the TTCM board, a stalwart, a man of great knowledge and talent in words and song, Professor Emeritus Hollis Chalkdust Liverpool, ORTT, Calypsonian scholar and cultural icon, to share his reflections.
Mr. Chairman, all protocols observed, but forgive me if I mention some real panmen in the audience for the records, like Dr. Kim Johnson here with us, who has written so much on pan, Mr. Ray Holman, a panist extraordinaire, and if I must stretch it a little bit, to Mr. Cooper, who served on the UTT board with me for years. I'm so happy to see you, Mr. Cooper, etc. And forgive me if I name our Archbishop Jason Gordon, because every time I see him in the audience like this, I always know I'll have a higher place in heaven. Mr. Atai asked me to say a few words on Taspo. I even told him that, why don't you ask Kim Johnson? He says, no, I want you to come and say a few words on Taspo, because I lectured on all these things for years when I was in UTT. And Taspo's visit was on the 6th of July, 1951. It was a very esteemed visit because that idea to go to the festival in Britain, that was a beautiful idea, because England was even celebrating 100 years of technology, and they were trying to boast about all their technology in England, all their buildings, etc., and they wanted people to see that. What they didn't say is that we have technology too. Steel band. Steel band is technology, real technology. So everybody was thinking of how you could have Festival of Britain and do invite the steel band. So the idea started to move around Trinidad and Tobago, and people were saying that we should go also. And then Hellgate from Antigua, we always had a problem with Antigua, you know, because Antigua always feel that they start steel band. And they were talking about having this to go to England. And people were saying, if Hellgate want to go, Trinidad had to be first, because Trinidad have real steel band then. And then there came people like Albert Gomes. Albert Gomes began to talk about sending a good steel band to Britain, let them see steel band. And then when we talk about Taspo, one can't talk about Albert Gomes alone. You have to talk about people like George Goddard, who was the made assistant secretary the year before, 1950. People like Lennox Spear, they all made a great contribution. And if you read Kim Johnson's book, he will tell you that since 1949, they were moving a motion to send Trinidadians to Britain. So all those persons made a great contribution. Carlisle Kerr, lots of them. George Goddard, I must mention George Goddard again because I helped George to do his book, and George carried me to see Sonny Roach and all of them. And first of all, they said that George Goddard was the man who took his bicycle and go all around Port of Spain and collect money to send Taspo to Britain. That's something you had in your book, Kim Johnson. George Goddard. In those days, riding a bicycle was a big thing in those days. Sidney Gollop, who became the first president of the Trinidad Association the year before. So everybody was talking about, if you want to see technology, send a steel band. And so they approached government and they asked government to help them to pay, and they asked government for $6,000, and government promised to give them, I don't know how much they give them, but they give them some money, etc. And then there came in 1950 with Casablanca. And Casablanca played a tune called Nocturne in E flat. And when Casablanca played that tune, they say, Britain had to hear that. Because people didn't know that steel band could play anything, as Kitchener said. Pan could play anything. And Kitchener saw that even as early as that. And when they heard Nocturne in E flat by Casablanca, they said, we have to go to England. So the idea moved around, etc. One of the reasons also for sending the Taspo is that they feared rioters. Trinidad had so many riots between the Pan men in the 40s, late 40s and early 50s. And they felt, therefore, that we shouldn't send no rioters to England. And hence the reason for bringing Lieutenant Griffith. Lieutenant Griffith, I don't want to talk to him about him too much, but Lieutenant Griffith, he joined the Trinidad police force and the band. He came from Barbados. He served in Grenada. He served in St. Lucia, and he also served in Trinidad. And they were thinking about, suppose we send these men to England and they start a riot again. Let me send a policeman, Let me send a policeman. So the fear of riots, etc. And we had so many outstanding, I won't, that word is a hard word to use, outstanding riots, that we had to write a whole book on that. I remember when I was a boy, a little boy, I was just 10 years old. I read about Don O'Connor traveling in Crossfire, and they throw powder on this man's wife. They throw powder on her, and he come outside to ask, how you could throw powder on my wife? Because he didn't understand the culture. Today people throw powder all over the place, and he didn't understand the culture, so he began to argue with them, and they hit him a baseball bat behind his head. That was the end of him. And that was a big thing. And I remember the papers the day after, the headline in the paper saying, it must not happen again. It must not happen again. So all these things caused them to say, let us go to England. And so they left here on July the 6th, 1951, traveled to Martinique and Guadeloupe, and then to France by ferry, and then to France and England by ferry, and they went to Leeds and Glasgow, moved to Wales, and they arrived on the San Mateo, a boat which they used here, a French boat, and they arrived there on July 24th. 17 days on sea to travel and to reach there on July 24th. Now, who are these lucky fellas? Esteemed panists, outstanding panists. You couldn't get in. When you get inside there, I mean, that was a real sight. They didn't carry Neville Jules. And Neville Jules was one of the foremost tuners, but he didn't join the association. And God had them say, if you're not in the association, you can't make the side. God had them believed in association. And they formed that association in 1950-51. So they left out Neville Jules. Sorry to leave him out. But then the side was Ellie Manet, who was more or less in charge of the pan tuner because he was a great pan tuner. Dudley Smith from Rising Sun. Theo Stevens, I'm calling for the records. Theo Stevens from Free French. Orman Patsy Haynes from Casablanca. Winston Spree Simon from Fascinators and Tokyo. Belgrave Bonaparte from Southern Symphony. Fillmore Boots Davidson. Fillmore Boots from Citizen Coopeters. Sterling Betancourt, who just died. And Sterling died in his 90s. Sterling was the man who didn't come back. Sterling didn't come back at all. Sterling said, I stayed because I see something better off in England. And Sterling stayed. And England gave him the MBE award. The only panman I know about, Sterling Betancourt, was given the MBE award for his contribution to pan in England. Yeah, that's good. And then they heard Andrew Pan. Andrew Pan is the brother of Olwanga the Calypsonian, you know. Olwanga still does walk with a chip on his shoulder for that, Yeah. Andrew Pan from Hill 16. And of course, Anthony Williams and North Stars. And there were other people like Granville Seeley, Carlton Greenwich, and Sonny Roach. I leave these three for last because even though they were selected, they didn't go. They didn't go. Granville Seeley was from Tripoli. He dropped out very early. I asked Heward, because Heward is the longest serving panman. Heward was panman of Tripoli since 1948. I asked him, I said, you must know. He said, well, nobody can write this, but Granville Seeley can go because Granville Seeley say, I can't leave Trinidad and go, and nobody minding my woman. He said, I had to get money. And they ain't give me no money, so he said, I ain't going. And then there was Carlton Greenwich from Laventille and Sonny Roach. They used Sonny Roach. Sonny Roach took the place of Granville Seeley. But Sonny Roach got very sick. And when they reached Miami, he says, I had to go back home. And they sent back Sonny Roach back home. But then there were also the emphasis on tuners. Tuners meaning they were great tuners for steel band, but they were individual tuners who could tune certain pans. So different persons were placed to tune different pans. For example, the man who could tune a grande can't tune a tenor pan. The man who could tune, in those days, and the man who could tune, well, they didn't have no second pan, they ain't carrying no second pan yet. But the man who could tune a guitar pan can't tune a tenor pan, so they used certain tuners, and they used 4 outstanding tuners. Ellie Manet was the man for the tenor pan, and then there was Belgrave Bonaparte also, from Southern Symphony, and then there was Fillmore Boots, and then there was also, last but not least, Anthony Williams, who played the cello pan. And these were the 4 official tuners, and they left here. In leaving Trinidad, one of the things they didn't paint no pan because they wanted England to see a real pan, real old-time pan. And that's why the people in England said, where the tune coming from? Because they couldn't understand that these unpainted pans could produce all that kind of music. So no paint pans. And then, of course, they had Lieutenant Joseph Nathaniel Griffith from Barbados. He was the musical director. A word about him. he introduced a chromatic style also. Anthony Williams had his chromatic style, but to play the kind of tunes that Taspo played. Taspo played tunes like, they played rumbas and foxtrot. Pan could play anything. They played foxtrot. And they played mambo. They played tunes like the Blue Danube. They played Tennessee Waltz and all these tunes. Of course, England heard for the first time on pan their national anthem, God Save Our Gracious Queen. They began with that. And then they move on to, after Johnny Drink Me Rum. You know, I promise to always sing calypso wherever I go, because some people feel calypso is not for God. So I just sing calypso wherever I go. After Johnny drink me rum, after Johnny drink me so-and-so, after Johnny so-and-so, Johnny pass round and take me wife. Oh, what a melody. Wherever I meet Johnny, people will be sorry to see the grave for Johnny and the gallows for me. The grave for Johnny and the gallows for me. You can't say gallows. The gallows for me. And they played that. That was the calypso they played. That main calypso. And of course they played mambo jambo. And they played things like golden earrings, etc. But Lieutenant Griffith had them well positioned. They played all types of tunes. In 1945, those same Stillman men were described in Parliament as playing noisy instruments. And 6 years afterwards, they were playing rumbas in England and all different types of pan. They didn't play any tall bass, they didn't use any tall bass, but they used the Grundig pan for the bass, etc. So they changed the world. They didn't carry, not the white boys, the white boy band, not because they hate white people, but because the white boys, they're now starting, and they're now grooving, you know. They didn't reach that standard of pan yet, so they say. And I asked you about why. So why you say why? I say why you didn't carry Nicky Ennis, and why you carry Curtis Spear? He said they didn't reach. They couldn't beat pan yet. They now start. So they didn't carry them. They didn't carry them. And they leave back all of them. They leave back Lawrence Dupree, for example, who's a very good pan man, etc. They leave out all of them. So they went to England, and they changed the status of steel bands here and abroad. Now, most people, let me say finally, that most people believe that all they went to do is to play pan in the Festival of England. But the records show, and this is good for Dr. Torrell and them to do some investigation, they will say that they played at Edric Connor. Edric Connor lent them their home, lent them his home. Edric Connor, who is the father of Geraldine Connor, who has done the Hallelujah chorus, etc. That's where she started. Pan. That's where she started. Her father was a great singer, outstanding singer, Edric Connor, singing all them folklore songs in England. And he continued. And he lent them his home in England. So one of the things they did was to have a whole day playing with Edric Connor in July, August, etc. They went, that's on 2nd of August, they went to Edric Connor's home. They went to Busker Holder home. Busker Holder also played with them. They all joined together. And one of the persons who played with them that came here to write about this one of the persons who played with them, they kept a whole night playing with Lord Kitchener. I think we should give Kitchener a round of applause. You couldn't have a concert in England without Kitchener. You could. In fact, all great Calypsonians, all of us, all great Calypsonians follow Kitchener and some of Kitchener. Kitchener has rubber from all of us, all of us. They have no Calypsonian today. Well, they have no Calypsonian today. But all great Calypsonians have to follow the great Lord Kitchener, because Kitchener was the man, you know. I tell young Calypsonians today about measurement, and I tell them about melody, and I tell them about rhyme, and they know what I'm talking about, you know. They know what I'm talking about. But they also had one festival appearance, and then they taught England, and they taught Scotland, And one of the things for Dr. Torrell to do is to look at, they recorded, Dr. Torrell, they recorded the Vogue magazine, and the band recorded with Vogue. Somebody has to get that. Don't let Red Fong get that yet. Somebody has to get that and bring that recording to Trinidad. They recorded a whole series of tunes, and England have them. England keeping very quiet, but England has all those recordings of Taspo with the Vogue cinema. And then they took a train and come back to Bordeaux because they had a little fallout. They said, fellas, them have a little fallout because, yeah, we ain't getting no money and we ain't sure. I want to eat cheese, you want to eat butter, and they're arguing, and they fall out and they went back. And then they came back now through St. Lucia. And then Lieutenant Griffith made them stay 3 days in St. Lucia. Because he from St. Lucia too. And they came back here on the Lady Nelson boat. And they came back on the SS Nelson to arrive here on the 12th of December, 1951. A great tour. Dr. Terrell and I had a talk, and she asked me about, and she's doing that this year, she asked me about the departure and how she was trying to get this tune for what Invaders played. And she asked me, she said, but nobody in Invaders know the tune. I said, nobody can know it because all of them dead. And that's the answer. All of them dead. And I told her, I said, I know it. She said, you can't know it because all Invaders men, nobody can know it. I said, huh? Well, even though I have a stroke, them things they stick in my head. And I gave her the tune. My heart cries for you, sighs for you, dies for you. My heart cries for you. Please come back to me. And the melody go, da 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 da. Lie, die, die, die. I know the words. Lie, da, da, da. But the melody go, my chorus, my heart cries for you, sighs for you, dies for you. So today, while we have this exhibition, my heart is crying out for men from Taspo. God bless and thank you very much.
Let's have another round of applause for Professor Emeritus Hollis Sharpness Liverpool for such a wonderful, wonderful presentation here this evening. Thank you very much, and we'd also like to acknowledge another director of the board of the TTCM online, who is unfortunately unable to join us because of an urgent commitment, Mr. Kenny Atai. We acknowledge his presence. And how did this commemoration all come about? It will take someone with a vision and belly to take on something like this. She is Dr. Torrell Brown, the founder of JTB Edutainment Consultancy Services, an entity that blends education and entertainment. But she's also an assistant professor at the University of Trinidad and Tobago in the Academy of Arts, Letters, Culture, and Public Affairs, where the seed for this commemoration was planted during her instruction in the Panyard Studies course. At this point in time, I'd like to invite to the podium Dr. Josephine Terrell Brown to share on Trinidad and Tobago's input into this initiative.
Yes, great. Thank you so very much. May I be allowed to stand on all protocols established earlier? Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, this is an emotional time for me. It is a dream come true. But before I say that, when your teacher goes before you, you're in trouble. I don't know why did they put prof to speak before me? Because he did such a wonderful job at telling the story. So forgive me if there will be some repetitions, because this is certainly a story that needs telling over and over. So we appreciate your presence here today. And why are we here? Why does it matter that we commemorate the 75th anniversary of Trinidad All-Steel Percussion Orchestra, Taspo? Let's step back in time a bit. I don't think anybody here was there around that time, right? 1951? Was anybody around that time? Oh, Prof, you're pointing at Prof now. Prof, you would, really? You were 10 years old. Awesome, awesome. You see why he spoke the way he spoke? Let's give Prof a round of applause. And you were 3, Dr. Gabriel. Why? You see, we have story. And Ray Holman, you were how old? He was 7 years old. Good. So we have some Taspo babies in the house. All right, so the rest of us, we can imagine, right? What it was like. So way back, during slavery, we know that African drums were banned. And after emancipation, under colonial rule, also tambour bamboo was banned. However, the people refused to be silenced. They grabbed whatever they could, dustbin covers, car parts, biscuit tin, and they made music. Out of that struggle came innovation. Out of disruption came the steel pan, challenging hierarchies through sound and proving that joy itself could be resistance. So, Prof spoke about Operation Britain. Operation Britain was the effort they made to raise funds for the men to go to London. So through concerts and dances and contributions. So Bermudez, for example, and we thank them for being part of this, would have donated 10 drums. We had a businessman who donated shirts. Some donated rum. You know, you must have your rum, right? Trust the Trini, right? To have the spirit with them. And so, with that, the men were able to go. However, they did not raise all the money. There was still some outstanding amounts. However, they left. So it was a rainy morning, not to repeat Prof, but a rainy morning on July the 6th, 1951, a large crowd gathered. So just imagine, these people did not believe in Pan before. They scorned Pan. They called the men hooligans and vagabonds, and they thought Pan was noise. But when they heard that Pan was going to England, Pan going by the Queen, and therefore they became interested. So they gathered at the port of Spain, a large crowd to see this instrument and the men leaving. Right? They came out in their numbers. Now, the ship has sailed. We got the ship horn earlier on. The ship has sailed. The men are in Britain now. And they are on South Bank, ready to perform. And the people who were looking at them saw these rusty pans, which they deliberately went with, and they were laughing and pointing, look at that. But they come with dustbins and so on. But when the men strike up a tune, it was a different story. They were now convinced that pan, and Dr. Johnson always say there's a difference between steel pan and pan. Not so, Dr. Johnson, right? So they were convinced now that pan was something of value, of importance. And pan became more known, more respected. And Prof again spoke about Sterling Betancourt, who remained in England, and he taught pan, and he carried it throughout Europe and Norway, Switzerland, etc. And he became a pillar of Notting Hill Carnival and helped with the globalization of Pan. Now, all the storytelling is to show how important it is for us to be here and to celebrate what we are celebrating. However, remember, Trinidad and Tobago was a colony at that time. You were under British rule. So what irony it is that we were under British rule, the very same system that implemented all these bans, all these suppressions, and where Pan reach? In England. The very same England. The very same queen and crown colony as we were, right? So that was an irony. That irony is striking that the same colonial system that tried to silence our culture became the stage for its global rise. This is cultural resistance. Reclamation of identity, what Bakhtin calls ritual inversion, turning hierarchies upside down, and we did it through sound. So steel pan became a sonic force. All the stereotypes repositioned pan as a legitimate art and catalyzed its spread worldwide. It was more than music. It was a cultural assertion. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today. To honor Taspo's role in transmission, community participation, and cultural continuity. So JTB Edutainment Consultancy Services, and I'm the proud founder of that entity, in collaboration with Pan Trinbago, we thank you very much, Pan Trinbago, the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, our good friends, and the students, faculty, and friends of UTT, the University of Trinidad and Tobago. I am so proud of my students. They have taken up the mantle and ran with it at our Panyard Studies course. And we have some friends of UTT who is also supporting us. So how are we going to celebrate this commemoration, this 75th, this Diamond Jubilee? We have 3 main events planned. One is what you are about to see in a couple of minutes, the wonderful exhibition upstairs. And this will run from Wednesday until the end of Pan month in August. And we have an exciting event planned. In a couple of weeks, we hope to come off, which is a reenactment of Taspo, that journey, that rainy day on the 6th of July when the men gathered at the port and they left. We hope to do a creative reenactment of that. And we'll be joined by some wonderful friends, such as Mr. Marvin Ishmael, our director. Can we give Mr. Ishmael a clap? A round of applause, please. He has accepted the challenge to be the director of our production. We thank you. And he has brought with him some friends, some really good actors and actresses. We also have involved the Lydian Choir. So we thank the Lydians for also partnering with us. All the students and volunteers and faculty, the people from APA, Academy of Performing Arts, we thank you all for your support. So that's the second event. The third event, Professor Harun Shah from England, who couldn't make it, unfortunately, we have dubbed the 6th of July Taspo Day. Don't you think it's deserving of that? Taspo Day is the 6th of July, to mark that day. And that day, we are going to have a Pan Jamboree. This is where we are taking it back to its roots, to where Pan started, to the bottle and spoon, the tambour, bamboo, the shack, the bottle and spoon, the dustbin cover, car part, rhythm section, anything. So everyone is invited that day for that event. It's an open event. Anyone can come. You will get more information about that. And we are partnering with Pan Trinbago for this event as well as Bermuda's Biscuit Company, and we thank them. Yes, they do deserve a round of applause. And finally, we do have hopes for a contingent to go across to London. So London is also celebrating the 75th anniversary. And they're celebrating it with, Haroon was supposed to speak about it. Unfortunately, it's what time? Probably midnight in England now, right? He's probably in his bed. So England is celebrating with an international conference. They will also have lots of steel band performances at South Bank, where Taspo performed the very first time. So there may be about 25 steel bands performing at South Bank and in the South Bank Center. And we are hoping that a contingent from Trinidad and Tobago can go across there to fly the red, white, and black. Because they are celebrating our PAN, our men, our Taspo team. So we would like to honor the expectations of us, even though Sterling Bettencourt isn't here. One of the significant moments we had planned was to present him with a torch. We are starting in Trinidad and Tobago, the celebrations, and it is being continued in England. So we wanted to pass the torch on to him. Unfortunately, he didn't hold out for that. He was very much aware, and we are happy to have been in contact with him, and he was aware of our plans. So we asked that the good Lord will ensure that he rests in eternal peace. So with these other events, we do have some challenges. We have been able to pull this off, and I want to thank our student curators. You will see them in a while, Mr. Luis Nascimento de Laja and Eric Pouchet, two of my students from the Panyard Studies class, turned curators. We have so many other students involved, and again, you'll hear of another one, her wonderful voice in a little bit. So as the other events are being planned, as I mentioned before, we do have some challenges. Finance is always a challenge. So we are hoping that the reenactment will come off. We are hoping that we will be able to celebrate with the Jamboree, and we are also hoping that a team of us can go across to England to celebrate with them and make Trinidad and Tobago's presence felt. So anyone who's willing to support, please, we invite you, support. This is a great opportunity, especially for the students. I want to make sure that they get as much exposure as possible. So I want to end by saying a humongous thank you to every participant, every volunteer, every supporter, every sponsor. You embody the spirit of Taspo. Special gratitude to Pantry Bago for their support. For everyone who came out today, we thank you. And special mention again to Louise, my student, who when I threw the idea out in Panyard Studies class, Louise caught it with both hands. And he has molded this entire experience for us. So thank you so much, Louise. Now, I'm afraid of calling names. You know it is getting trouble when you call names and you leave out some. But there are some I must call. Terry Bernard. Terry, thank you so much. And the Pantry and Bago team. Yes. We have persons like Michelle Huggins-Watts, who is supporting us as well, who's working behind the scenes. We have Patrice Engelsberth. There is Adissa. And all of these are students. So what we are seeing is a bridging of academia and praxis. So we are not just doing the theory, we are walking the talk. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we still have work to do, and we ask for your kind support. And as you leave today, please collect a little commemorative token we have for you, a keychain as a keepsake to mark this moment. And feel free to make any contributions that you can so that our students can represent you and TNT and celebrate Taspo. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Torrell Brown. I don't want to encourage this, but let me give her another round of applause, please. And as she mentioned, one thing clicked, well, many things clicked, but one thing in particular, the global ascendancy of PAN. And one thing I neglected to mention is that I am the PRO at PAN Trinbago, and one theme that we have been building on for the last probably 3-4 years has been that global ascendancy of PAN. And Taspo, of course, would have been the genesis of this, and we continue that expansion today. Yes, round of applause for PAN Trinbago, yeah. So I'm sure you're anxious to learn of how all this unfolds in an exhibition. Pretty soon you'll all get to see that. But in the meantime, let's get a mental sneak peek. The curators of this exhibition, Ms. Erin Pouchet and Mr. Luis Nacimiento de Laja, will now share the creative vision that shaped the display.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished guests, and please allow me to stand on all protocols previously observed. Together with my colleague, Louise Delaja, I have had the privilege of serving as co-creator of this exhibition, Taspo at 75. Welcome, and thank you for being here tonight. Before you enter the gallery, I want to tell you about this exhibition and what it's really about. At its heart, this is an exhibition about 11 men. 11 men who, in 1951, boarded a ship in Port of Spain and traveled to London, carrying an instrument that was still young, still misunderstood, and still fighting for legitimacy. Their orchestra was called Taspo, Trinidad All-Steel Percussion Orchestra. Tonight, we tell their story here in the country that created them, for the people who inherited what they made possible. This project began, as many meaningful projects do, with someone asking a question. Dr. Torrell Brown approached our Master of Carnival Arts cohort and invited us to take on something significant, something that deserved documentation, something that had waited a very long time to be brought together and presented in this way. We said yes. From that point, each member of the team found a place within the work. Louise, my co-creator, serves as creative director of this wider project, encompassing not just the exhibition, but also the reenactment and Taspo Day. His artistic vision shaped what you see around you tonight, the visual language, the atmosphere, and the experience moving through this story. My contribution was the research and writing. For months, we went through archives, reports, newspapers, academic texts, recordings, and historical documents, trying to piece together a story that has often existed in fragments. Taspo is remembered in parts, in sealbound memory, in scholarship, in scattered photographs, in family histories. Our goal was to bring together those pieces into something accessible, rigorous, and public. What emerged reminded us that Taspo is not a footnote in sealbound history. It was a turning point. Before 1951, the sealpan was often dismissed, policed, and treated as something outside of acceptable society. People who played it were judged. The communities that created it were often overlooked. And then 11 men crossed an ocean. They stood on a stage at the Festival of Britain and introduced the world to something entirely new. Their success did not solve everything overnight, but it shifted the possibilities. The sealpan began moving into schools, into concert spaces, and international consciousness. It continued its journey towards becoming something what we now recognize as the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, played across the world and celebrated internationally. That journey did not begin in a boardroom or a concert hall. It began in the yards. And Taspo helped carry it forward. What you will encounter in this exhibition is the result of careful research and deep collaboration. You return to committee reports, newspaper articles, archives, calypsos, oral histories, academic writings, and historical records. Several images and materials gathered here have rarely been displayed publicly in conversation with one another. That came with the responsibility. We wanted to treat this history with care. Every effort was made to verify names, dates, and narratives. Because these individuals deserve more than celebration, they also deserve accuracy. And perhaps that is what museums do at their best. They remind us that history is not just abstract. History has names, history has faces, history belongs to people. Tonight is not simply about the opening of an exhibition, it is an act of remembering. It is a celebration of cultural memory, preservation, and recognition. I am deeply proud of what this team has built and deeply grateful to everyone who has made it possible. Dr. Brown for the original vision, the researchers, designers, all the institutions that have helped us, and all the people who have supported us, my classmates and colleagues, everyone who has trusted us with pieces of this story. Thank you for being here tonight and for choosing to witness it with us. It is now my pleasure to hand you over to my co-creator, Louise, who will express gratitude on behalf of both of us. However, before I hand over to Louise to express our joint gratitude, I'd like to thank and congratulate Louise on his efforts towards this project. As co-creator and creative director, this project, his artistic vision really transformed the research into this experience that we will all see today. So ladies and gentlemen, I now hand you over to Louise. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, government officials, distinguished guests, and all who have joined us today. I would also like to extend a warm welcome and congratulations to my classmates, the various teams, and of course my lecturers from the MAX program at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. As my co-curator, Erin, and colleague already has provided an insight into the conceptual framework behind this exhibition, I would like to offer a more personal perspective on this occasion, one rooted in gratitude. As we gather to reflect the legacy of Taspo and commemorate the historic journey to London, we do so with profound gratitude for the cultural capital, the depth, and the enduring legacy of this remarkable instrument, and for the privilege of contributing to a story greater than ourselves, the story of Taspo and the story of Pan. I have been privileged to experience culture in many forms, and wherever I have immersed myself in it, I have been transformed. And that is why I chose to do my master's program here. The cultural legacies of Africa and its diaspora have shaped many of the artistic traditions we celebrate today. Traditions preserved through resilience, sacrifice, and the vision of those who came before us. When Dr. Brown first asked me to conceptualize a project commemorating the Diamond Jubilee of the Steel Pan's historic journey to London, I questioned my place within that narrative, how to conceptualize and tell a story that isn't directly tied to my heritage. What I soon realized was that culture had already prepared me for this task, not only through the academic journey of the past year, but through the experiences that have shaped my life. From proud Omoluabi Yoruba, roots and the vibrancy of my Carioca birthright steeped in carnival culture, to a rich Caribbean upbringing, immersion in Ashanti heritage, and later on, an appreciation of the nuances of the Manzi culture, I have come to understand that culture transcends borders, tribes, religions, and nations. My Oriki reminds me where I come from, but my experiences have taught me that culture is never confined to one place. It travels, it evolves, it connects. As Kamau Braffet reminds us, the unity is submarine. Beneath the surface, our histories, memories, struggles, and creative expressions remain deeply connected. Culture is many things. It can be sacred, it can be scholarship, it can be a celebration, it can be resistance. For some, it is academic discourse. For many, it's simply lived every day. For me, it has become an enduring lesson in gratitude. That gratitude became the point of departure for this project. As C.L.R. James famously asked, what do they know of cricket who only cricket know? In much the same way, what do we know of Pan if we only know the instrument? To understand Pan is to understand its people, the struggles, ingenuity, community, innovation, and social conditions that transformed discarded material into one of the world's most remarkable musical inventions. Taspo was more than an orchestra traveling to the Festival of Britain. It was Trinidad and Tobago, presenting its ingenuity, creativity, and cultural confidence to the world. That understanding guided every decision the curatorial team made. How do we honor the legacy that is Taspo? How do we acknowledge the struggles that preceded 1951 while celebrating the community that emerged from them? How do we communicate a multi-sensory story about Pan and its global significance and do so academically, inspiring younger creatives whilst remaining authentic? Those questions became our compass. As creative director, my responsibility was not just to tell a story, but to create a space where words, sound, images, and installations could collectively convey Pan's inheritance, resilience, and global significance. I am grateful to have been allowed to dream this. Grateful for the creative path my Orishas have always accorded me. Grateful for a class of talented individuals who have challenged me, tested me, and taught me. Grateful for lecturers who encouraged us to look beyond the surface to pursue deeper understanding. Most importantly, I'm grateful for everyone who helped realize this vision. Terry, Kevin, Candice, Paulette, Marvin, Michelle, Melise, Captain Michelle, Patrice, Joshua, Mr. Christen, Dr. Kayla, Professor Justine Toro Brown, Kenya Tai, Adisa, Amos, Miss Holder, Dr. Kim Johnson, and of course the images you see there you'd see upstairs were images which we went relentlessly after Getty Images to get them for free. I am equally grateful for the lessons that continue to guide me, the artistic discipline, creative courage, and commitment to excellence inherited from my artist mother, whose talent and perfectionism taught me early that art deserves care, intention, and respect. And my father's constant reminder, whatever thy hand finds you to do, do it with all thy will. We hope we have done exactly that. So after all that, I hope your critiques will be thoughtful and at least a little kind. I hope that as you experience the exhibition, you will see how words, sounds, images, and installations were guided by intention. Do not simply tell a story, but honor a people's pride, resilience, ingenuity, and cultural inheritance. The first time I heard Pan, I was moved by its melody. Today, I am equally moved by what it represents. Innovation born out of adversity, cultural continuity, and a people's enduring ability to transform struggle into beauty, identity, and inheritance. Thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoy the exhibition.
Let me just ask the last two presenters to join me on stage real quick. And in the interest of time, we have another fun part. Thanks to Bermudez, we have some vital supplies to share. And if that didn't already, give it away. With Candice's help, Erin and Louise will draw our first winners of the door prizes. We thank Bermudez and the Crix brand for their kind support. As we know, the biscuit tin played a very important part in the history and development of the steel pan. So, yes, I hope you'll have your ticket stubs ready. Boarding pass 019. We have a winner, 019. No? Okay. All right. Excuse me? Sure. And boarding pass 044. It wasn't yours, Anissa? 044. This person missed the Taspo ship. Yeah, we are now. All right. Come up and claim your prize, sir. Anissa. Sure, congratulations. Moving swiftly along, we will now enjoy a performance by the lovely and talented Patrice Inglesbooth, another student of the Carnival Studies program. She will perform an excerpt of a poem entitled Taspo, Steel of the Islands, Voice of the World, written by Robbie Joseph of Pan Podium, a very apt piece for commemorating the Diamond Jubilee of Taspo. Also, on that rainy day on July 6, 1951, just as it is this evening, on the port of Port of Spain, Elie Manet's band, the Shell Invaders Steel Band, Steel Orchestra, performed for him and Taspo, My Heart Cries for You. This piece will also be rendered by Miss Inglesbooth. Let's welcome her to the stage.
In 1951, a ship set sail, packed with rhythm in steel and hail. From Trinidad's sun-blessed beating land to Britain's shores, a noble land, and as they sailed away they played, "My heart cries for you, dies for you, sighs for you, as my heart's long for you. Please come back to me." This song is dedicated to the steel pan. This is a message from us. Happy Taspo at 75, everyone. Someday, somewhere we'll find a new way of living. We'll find a way of forgiving. There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us, peace and quiet and open air waits for us somewhere. There's a time for us someday, a time for us, time together with time to spare,
know, if I just have a little chance to warm up a bit, I could, you know, try to match that sound, but we don't have the time for that, so I wouldn't, I wouldn't, you know. Okay, because I know we have a schedule to maintain. Behind every successful organization, we have a visionary leader, and I'm reading the script for somebody who is not here, so forgive me, because we do welcome to the podium now Ms. Denise Hernandez, the Secretary of Pan Trinbago, who is a repository for a wealth of knowledge on steel pan and culture in Trinidad and Tobago, and she will be delivering remarks on behalf of Mrs. Beverly Ramsey Moore, the President of Pan Trinbago, who we thank very much for her support for this initiative.
All protocols observed. Distinguished guests, representatives of the hosting organization, members of the Steel Pan fraternity, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. It is a distinct honor to bring greetings on behalf of the President of Pan Trinbago, the world governing body for the Steel Pan, Mrs. Beverly Ramsey Moore, and members of the Central Executive, as we officially launch commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Trinidad All-Steel Percussion Orchestra, Taspo. We commend the organizers of this important initiative for their commitment to preserving and elevating one of the most defining milestones in the evolution of our national instrument. To fully appreciate the significance of Taspo, we must first reflect on the social landscape from which the steel band movement emerged between the 1930s and the late 1940s. In its formative years, the steel band was shaped within a complex social environment marked by tension, rivalry, and marginalization, where panists were often unfairly labeled as badjans, rogues, and vagabonds. Yet, within that very space of adversity, resistance, and creativity, a powerful cultural innovation was forged in the panyards and communities of Trinidad and Tobago. From that struggle emerged an art form that would ultimately redefine global musical expression. On July 6, 1951, Taspo departed the shores of Trinidad and Tobago, and on July 26, 1951, made history at the Festival of Britain with its performance on the South Bank in London. 11 master panists, selected from rival steel bands across the nation, came together as a unified national ensemble. In doing so, they became the first nationally organized and internationally recognized steel orchestra to represent Trinidad and Tobago on the world stage. It is important to state clearly, Taspo was not the first steel orchestra in existence, but it was the first to be formally assembled under a national framework and the first to achieve international exposure and recognition of this magnitude. That moment marked the beginning of a new era in the steel pan movement. What made Taspo truly historic was not only its performance abroad, but the powerful message it conveyed at home and abroad, that unity of purpose can transcend division, and that cultural excellence can emerge from the most unlikely of circumstances. Rival bands, once divided by geography and identity, stood together in discipline, dignity, and national pride to represent Trinidad and Tobago on the global stage. By all accounts, the response was extraordinary. Audiences were captivated by the resonant and innovative sound of the steel pan, an instrument crafted from discarded oil drums and now globally recognized as the only acoustic musical instrument invented in the 20th century. Take note, they should also recognize Trinidad as the first country to do what? Recycle. Yes, we recycled steel drums. So I think we should get that recognition too. I didn't think recycling wasn't in the air at that time. However, one contemporary account captured the moment succinctly. A revolution in music reached London today. Indeed, it was not only a musical revolution, but a cultural and social one. That moment of international recognition did not end in London. It returned home and fundamentally reshaped the trajectory of the steel band movement. Today, Pan Trimbago represents over 300 member steel orchestras and more than 8,000 panists. This growth is a direct continuation of the foundation laid by Taspo, which affirmed that the steel pan was not merely an instrument of entertainment, but a national innovation capable of commanding global respect. It signaled the beginning of the steel pan's transition from the margins of society into the center of national identity and global cultural diplomacy. As we reflect on this legacy, we must also recognize Taspo as the formal catalyst for organized national representation in steel pan history. It established the blueprint for collective advancement, unity, and international engagement. At Pan Trimbago, we remain firmly guided by the principle that steel orchestras and panyards are not merely performance spaces. They are living institutions, centers of creativity, discipline, mentorship, and social transformation. Within this ecosystem, historical, cultural, and social values are not peripheral. They are foundational. The panyard is where identity is formed, discipline is nurtured, and communities are strengthened. It is where culture is not only preserved, but actively lived and advanced. As we launch the 75th anniversary commemoration, we reaffirm our commitment to strengthening these institutions and advancing the continued evolution of the steel pan while remaining firmly anchored in its cultural roots. We also take this moment to pay tribute to one of Taspo's most distinguished pioneers, the late Sterling Betancourt, MBE FRSA, the last surviving member of Taspo. Mr. Betancourt was a founding member of Taspo whose pioneering work in the United Kingdom and Europe helped establish the steel pan movement across that globe and contributed significantly to cultural expressions such as the Notting Hill Carnival. His legacy is one of vision, excellence, and global cultural influence. On behalf of Pan Trimbago, we extend our deepest condolences to his family and to the global steel pan fraternity, while celebrating his immeasurable contribution to our national musical instrument. As we commence this commemorative journey through June, July, and August, let us do so with clarity of purpose and renewed commitment. This is not only a celebration of history, but a reaffirmation of direction. Taspo remains a powerful symbol of unity, transformation, and national pride. Its legacy continues to remind us that when we come together with purpose, we are capable of transforming not only music, but perception, identity, and history itself. It also underscores the symbiotic relationship between the steel pan, steel orchestras, and the innovators, visionaries, and pioneers who continue to advance this movement. As demonstrated by the United Nations recognition of World Steel Pan Day, the steel pan continues to affirm its global relevance and its enduring historical, cultural, and social and economic impact. Born out of resistance and resilience, the steel pan has not only survived, it has evolved into a global cultural force. Pan Trimbago remains firmly committed to advancing this global ascendancy, ensuring that the steel pan continues its journey as an instrument of excellence, unity, and international cultural diplomacy. The steel pan was born in Trinidad and Tobago, but its music, is a gift to the world. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Denise Hernandez, representing Mrs. Beverly Ramsey Moore, President of Pan Chimbigo here this afternoon. Because I've been constantly reminded of time requirements and restrictions, we are moving swiftly along once more, and we are adjusting the program a little bit. And I would like to invite to the podium, representing the Honorable Michelle Benjamin, Minister of Culture and Community Development, Mr. Damian Richardson, Director of Culture from the Ministry, to deliver remarks.
Greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the ministry and our minister to bring some remarks on this occasion. This is an important instance where we commemorate a very important, very seminal activity that took place 75 years ago. We're going back to the beginnings of things, so to speak. And, kudos to all those involved in the organization of this series of events that marks what Taspo did 75 years ago. Myself on my own journey of learning, I had known about Taspo and known about most of the guys who were involved in Taspo, but I didn't know that they were in Taspo until a few years ago. I did a deep dive, and I was surprised to see how many of those guys became luminaries, champions, titans in the art form. I mean, they already would have been something special to make the cut. But the legacy they have all left behind is amazing. And Taspo is one of 3 tours that I'm aware of that people always speak of with reverence. World Fair, Canada, 1967. People always speak of that one. That one was another critical breakthrough tour, and then Festac 77, which was in Nigeria. So those 3 tours, people always speak with reverence about those tours, and understandably, those tours all had significant impact on the culture and the trajectory of Trinidad and Tobago art forms, at home and abroad. Congratulations to the team that put on this exhibition. I can't wait to get upstairs and see it, and for that reason, I'm going to be very brief and say, I wish you guys all the best, and I wish that you guys go from strength to strength with this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richardson, bringing remarks on behalf of the Minister of Culture, the Honorable Michelle Benjamin. At this point in time, as we prepare to wind things up this evening, I would like to invite Ms. Roma Sirat Singh. With everything, we must say thanks. Gratitude is a must. Ms. Roma Sirat Singh will do us the honors of expressing our gratitude to all who made this possible.
Good evening, everyone. Please permit me to stand on all protocols previously observed. As we close this evening's function, I am privileged to offer thanks on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum. We are honored to have representatives of the diplomatic community. Your attendance reminds us that the story of Taspo is not only a Trinidad and Tobago story, but one that demonstrates the power of culture to transcend borders and connect people across nations. We recognize the presence of the Archbishop of Port of Spain, Archbishop Jason Gordon. Thank you to the Ministry of Culture and Community Development for your continued support and endorsement. This exhibition was made possible through the efforts of many contributors, so despite the length of the program so far, please indulge me a little bit longer. We extend a heartfelt thank you to Pan Chimbigo President Beverly Ramsey Moore, and specifically Vice President Terry Bernard for their dedication to the Steel Band movement and especially their invaluable support in this undertaking. We recognize and thank the Carnival Institute of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Kim Johnson, for his support with the research, Rich Jam Productions, Panland, the Octamedia Studio, Mitsko, All Stars Steel Orchestra, Arima Angel Harps, Patrice Inglesworth, Veteran Steel Orchestra, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the National Archives, Keith Simpson, Robbie Joseph of Pan Podium, and Bermudas for their partnership, expertise, and assistance in bringing this exhibition to life. Special recognition is extended to Mr. Dennis Fakuri for lending us his art collection on the journey of the steel pan, which forms part of this exhibition as well. We also thank the University of Trinidad and Tobago for its continued contribution to research, education, and cultural scholarship. Our heartfelt gratitude goes to JTB Edutainment's Consultancy Services and Dr. Josephine Torrell Brown, whose vision, collaboration, and guidance have been instrumental in sharing the story of Taspo with the public. We also acknowledge our curators, Erin Pouchette and Louise Delaja, whose creativity and dedication have brought this exhibition to life. Special tribute is paid to Louise, whose vision and commitments have been central to the Taspo project from its earliest stages. A very special thank you goes out to our longtime collaborators at the First Citizens Bank Group for their continued partnership and generosity in providing this space where we can learn and celebrate our culture. Thank you to the TCM board, staff, all volunteers, researchers, technicians, caterers, bar staff, car park owners, and everyone who supported us behind the scenes. It is impossible to name everyone, but please know that your work is seen and deeply appreciated. One of Taspo's greatest achievements is not simply traveling to Britain to showcase the steel pan, but demonstrating the power of unity. Musicians from different bands, communities, and backgrounds came together as one orchestra and showed the world what Trinidad and Tobago could achieve. That lesson remains as relevant today as it was in 1951. Institutions such as this Carnival Museum play a vital role in preserving these stories for future generations. We therefore encourage the continued support from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, our corporate sponsors, cultural stakeholders, and the wider public. Safeguarding Trinidad and Tobago's history and heritage is a responsibility shared by us all. I want to also recognize Mr. Kenny Atai, who has carried the financial burden of operating the museum for the better part of this year. It is his personal funds that have been used for many of the things that you will enjoy and have seen in the past exhibition as well. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Museum, thank you for your continued support and presence. We invite you to enjoy the exhibition, share its stories with others, and continue celebrating the extraordinary legacy of Taspo and the pioneers who carried the sound of Trinidad and Tobago to the world. Thank you. Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where excitement is building. This is where an amazing transaction will begin. It's Olympics we have here, you know. Just as the countries pass the torch from one another, a pan-stick torch will be passed from our beautiful little island, the land of steel pan, calypso, limbo, chutney, doubles, roti, and crab, to the King's Land, London, England. According to Marlon Hopkinson, It may be the largest pan stick in the world. This pan stick torch is donated by the kind compliments of Panland. It will be presented to Mr. Michael Cooper, presented by Mr. Michael Cooper, to Dr. Josephine Torrell Brown of JTB Edutainment Consultancy Services, who will take it to London. Professor Shah, it is coming to you. DJ, let's get a drum roll for this momentous occasion. Never before happened. Let us welcome Mr. Michael Cooper of Panland Inc. and Dr. Josephine Torrell Brown for the symbolic passing of the pan torch. We gotta get that again. We gotta get that again. Thanks to Panland. Thank you very much. And one time? We launch it one time? Sure.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to Michael Cooper and Panland for sponsoring this awesome torch. Possibly, as Marlon said, the biggest pan stick in the world, maybe. I don't think we can hit it on the pan, but certainly the symbol. And again, it's like Operation Britain all over again, where we are seeking support to make it possible for us now to take this across to England. So thanks again, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you very much for that important transition. And it is my honor at this time, history in the making, ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the Taspo at 75 exhibition officially open. That's it. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. The voyage continues. We invite you to visit the upper deck to explore the exhibition, have some light refreshments, and enjoy some sweet steel pan music provided by the talented Arima Angel Harps. Please note that eating and drinking is not allowed upstairs. Servers will come to you with refreshments, and you can visit the bar just behind you. We did have another, sorry, okay. Do enjoy and have a great evening. We had another.
Check, check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if could they hear me upstairs as well? Because I know there are significant amounts of persons. No, they won't. All right. I was just informed that there is a donation box on site. So if you'd like to contribute to any of the activities and events that were mentioned by Dr. Terrell Brown earlier, please feel free to contribute. It's a black box located at the, around there? Oh yes, it's located. All right, so it's on the wall next to the griot sign, a black box. Feel free to donate to help contribute. And there are keychains on the desk for sale. Oh, okay. So you can, yes, a keychain as a token of appreciation or a token of this evening's event. You can get them at the main table as well. So a donation box and keychains. Thank you very much. Give and you can take as well.